All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Book Chat. Tonight, we're going to be talking about His Perfect Crime by Alex Sigmore. And so we'll just jump right into the story and get everything moving along. And I hope you enjoy it for tonight. So, this book opens up with FBI agent Emily Slate arriving at a gruesome crime scene outside this small town of Stillwater. And a trapper and his dog discovered the body of this woman stuffed inside a footlocker, and the victim's eyes have been sewn shut. So I that kind of freaked me out when I read that. I thought that was so creepy. What did you think about that, Regina?
Well, she's walking down there, and it's a new country side for her because this is not her town. She's originally from D.C., where she's not in D.C. no more.
Yes.
And she's walking down there. Before anybody gets there, the guy reveals the box, and there that woman is with her eyes
Yes.
sewn shut.
Yes. And she goes down there by herself in the dark because she wants to be there alone before anybody else kind of um, disturbs it. So I thought the author's description, it immediately pulled me into the scene, and I could feel how cold the weather was, and I could hear the snow crunching under my feet, and just a real sense of creepiness at what they were looking at. So, and the other thing that immediately stood out to me was Emily's reaction. I didn't know if you picked up on that in the book. When she was walking up to the crime scene, she says, "It's not him. It's not him," repeatedly. It was like, what was that all about? My first thought was, um, is this a killer that she had looked for? Maybe that's why she ended up in this small town. Kind of what was she thinking it was? Was it she thinking the him was in this box, or what that was all about? Did you pick that
I
up at
guess
all? Did you get
I
a
guess
sense
I
of that?
missed that. I thought she was saying I can do it or I can do it or something.
Yeah, she was saying that too, like building her confidence, but she was also saying, "It's not him." She said it a couple times. It's not him. It's not him. Um,
Well,
so
I guess she was referring to something in her past cases.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was my first impression. And then we go on to Emily meets the police chief Burke of Stillwater. And let me tell you, things become really tense off immediately. The police chief clearly doesn't want the FBI involved, and Emily arrives already defensive because she got sent to this small town because of what had ever happened um, in the past with her job, and the two of them, they clash right from the very beginning because
Because he disrespected women.
he did. He did. Um, I'm trying to think of a good, nice word that I could say to describe him, but one doesn't really come to mind. And Emily she's kind of a small, petite woman. She looks really young for her age. What she did for the FBI is she went undercover because she looks so young. She could play a younger woman and get into different involved with gangs or whatever they were investigating undercover because of her look. And so she has a pretty bad taste in her mouth of people judging her by her appearance because she's small and petite, and she doesn't look like she's old enough to be in the FBI for sure. And then we also meet Detective Liam Coll. And unlike the chief, he's pretty friendly and welcoming. And Emily, she just really doesn't know what to make of that. And she's used to resistance from local police departments, and immediately questions whether or not she can trust him. And what did you think of when you met Detective Coll in the book?
Well, like you said, she's leery about trusting anybody because of
Yeah.
what happened in her last case.
Yeah. Yes. And that was kind of my thoughts was, is, what happened? Is it just her past relationships with local law enforcement and people treating her like she's not qualified to do her job? And the other thing is, um, Sheriff Burke, it puts him in charge of the investigation. So she, right off the bat, she's like, "Oh, this is going to be his little watchdog, and he's going to be reporting back, and he's to keep an eye on me. And what help is he really gonna be?" It's kind of what I got to that out of that. So they start to investigate this scene. And so they learn that this victim is pretty unique. And Emily, she's seen cases with similarities before, but this is the first time she's ever had a victim that's had their eyes shown shut. It's very disturbing, the very disturbing thought. And as the investigation progresses, we begin learning more about Emily herself, and she is carrying a lot of emotional baggage from a previous incident that nearly ended her career. So this case feels like she's really got to prove herself because this is her last chance, or she's going to lose her job, which also explains how come she was so edgy in the beginning. So, do you think Emily's distrust of Liam is justified based on her past experiences, or is it preventing her from seeing the potential of him being an ally?
Um, no, she gave in, trying to understand him.
I think so. I think even though she's so closed off, she's willing to give him a chance and see where it leads. So they're waiting on this autopsy. Or let me back up here just a minute. So Emily and Coll, they spend time searching for evidence at this crime scene, but there's absolutely nothing due to weather, how long she'd been in the ground. The crime scene was clean, that they couldn't find anything. So one of my favorite early on kind of on the side characters is Mr. Bierman, and he's the trapper who had discovered this body. He was out hunting, and his hunting dog picked up this scent and started digging up this chest, and so that's kind of how she was discovered. And I enjoyed the author's description of his character because he comes across as this old school outdoorsman with a rugged appearance and a very colorful personality. He's chewing tobacco and he's telling stories, and they're constantly having to refocus him, and so he feels very authentic despite his rough exterior. He seems to have a kind heart, especially when it comes to his dogs. He loves his dogs, and I just think the author did a great job of making him feel like a real person rather than just a minor witness, because you don't hear from him again in the story. It's just this one little section at the beginning of the book of the person who had discovered the crime scene. So I think the author did a good job of bringing him to life because he feels authentic and rugged and also kind-hearted. What did you think of the
Well,
trapper?
I guess it was right there at the back scene, the last of the scene.
Uh-huh.
Somewhere I just read again, and she was interviewing him again, but
Uh-huh.
but they were in the building, and he had that jaw of tobacco in his
The
mouth.
the jaw of tobacco. And I could just picture
And
him. Probably
she,
has a big old beard and just this rugged outdoorsman.
yeah, she's standing there watching him, and it's a pretty clean interview room, and she's thinking, okay, there's nowhere for him to spit that, so he's
Uh-huh.
gonna have
Yes.
to swallow it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I kind of turned my stomach rereading that. I'd already read it once, but then I
Yeah.
was rereading it.
Yeah, I just and then he kept drifting off, and he's telling these stories, and she's like, "Come on, just get onto it. I just need to know how you came across this buried trunk." So I thought that was pretty good. I like that. Um, so they start their investigation. One of the things that they discovered was the autopsy of this victim, who they don't know. They know it's a woman, and that she's a healthy woman, and she's about in her 30s or so. And they feel, based on her clothing, and she's got all this jewelry on, and very expensive jewelry. And they estimated she's probably been dead for 2 or 3 months. And as they investigate this jewelry, they're looking into this jewelry because they're like, well, it's not a robbery, because they left all this jewelry on her. And the jewelry's worth like $25,000. And so it's like, why was she murdered and they left all of this expensive jewelry behind? And as that continues, she discovers, as she's waiting on these autopsy results, that she finds out there's a missing persons case that was closed. The sheriff, the chief Burke, had closed, and her name was Victoria Wright, and that
But
she had disappeared months early. And because of that timeline matching up, she was like, well, I wonder if it's this woman. She's not sure, but she's
yeah,
like,
after they found out who the first woman is, that's when they
yes,
found the second woman.
yeah.
I mean, I
The
mean,
first woman
the
is
second woman they found out who she was, and then they found the first woman.
yes, Victoria Wright. And
Right.
then, but this Chief Burke, who Emily's already butted heads with, has already closed this case after concluding that that she ran away to Italy, because she was having an affair, and she ran off with this other man, leaving her husband and her children. But Emily, she just has this feeling that just something isn't really matching up. And because of this missing person record, she gets the dental records and eventually confirms that their victim is Victoria Wright. That was the woman that was buried in the footlocker. And so with them
They start
finding
they start investigating the husband.
Yes, with them finding that out, it also raises these huge questions of Chief Burke's original investigation, and whether he had intentionally ignored important evidence, because yep, that's what it is. He never checked into anything. He never followed up. He didn't do his job. He just closed the case.
Well,
And so
everything kept thinking it was Victoria's boss.
yes, yes. Well, and that she was just having it, that she wasn't happy at home, and she was just having this secret affair. And they had some emails and whatnot, and that she just ran off. So there was no bother, um, uh, cut and closed the case, and never even followed up on anything. So I don't know if that was just total lack of, at this point in the book, of him just being lazy and not doing his job, or kind of what was going on. But it definitely made me a little suspicious
Well, it
of
was
the
a
chief.
little country mountain town, and the sheriff wasn't the best in the world, and so he didn't want her investigating it at all. And the more she pushed, the
Yeah,
uglier he got.
the uglier and meaner he got. Oh my gosh, he would just get furious. So um with all of that, now one of the biggest developments comes when Emily starts, she's working through her process, and she kind of has a hunch. She just feels like this crime scene is so clean that there has to be more than one. So she has a friend, back at the FBI, who's an analyst. It's kind of like really her only close friend that really knows about her. And so and her name is Zara. And
And the
so,
reason why Emily is having such a hard time, she just lost her husband.
yes, yes. And so Zara uncovers information that there's almost an identical unsolved case from 3 years ago. And it's the same thing, striking enough. And it's a woman, and she's had her eyes shown shut as well. So it's like, okay, so do we have a serial killer here? How, is there going to be more people, or why is there so much time? There's like a 3-year gap in between the two victims. Um, so this discovery drastically raises the stakes of this investigation. What initially appeared to be an isolated murder may actually now be a serial killer who's been operating undetected for years. So it becomes even more compelling because it's no longer just searching for what they think is a missing person who isn't missing because they found her in this trunk, but is this as a serial killer? Um, and so at this time, Emily's trust in Coll is tested when he accidentally reveals information back to Burke and Emily that she wanted um, kept confidential. So she gets very, very upset with him and feels like, yep, you did exactly what I did. You're in Burke's pocket. You've just been watching me and running back and feeding him information on my investigation. So, so just to kind of recap, she has several suspects already on her radar. One is Victoria's husband, Gerald Wright, Victoria's boss, Rex Fuller, because she finds out information that he was harassing women at work. And then this mysterious man that she found through this investigation of who she supposedly ran off to Italy with.
Paul.
And yes. And so we find out here in a little bit who he is. And so at this point in the story, I'm convinced there's a lot more happening than we know about. There's just too many pieces going around, and don't really have, because like I said, Burke was acting really suspicious. And then you got the husband and the boss, and then this
Well,
mystery man.
the sheriff wanted her to get stumped and go back to DC. He did
Yes.
not want her there. He
Yes.
knew that she was turning over rocks, I guess you would say.
Yes. Yes.
Stones would be the word.
Yes.
That he did not want those unturned.
No, because and a lot of it is he never looked into it. And
Right.
he did not want her investigating that. So
Because somebody didn't want him to.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So as we jump into about the middle of the story where everything really starts to kind of unravel, um, Emily and Coll have to go notify Gerald Wright, and that his wife Victoria has been identified as this murder victim. But just before that, Emily had asked him, do not disclose the information that we think it's this Victoria because we're waiting on the autopsy results. And Coll gets cornered by Burke and tells him what's going on. And the sheriff Burke just goes off the rails. That was a closed case. You have no business messing around in it. What are you doing? You need to leave this alone. So because she feels he kind of throws her under the bus and she doesn't trust him, she tells him that she has to inform Gerald that his wife is deceased. And so she can stand back and kind of observe Gerald and kind of get an idea of his reaction. And so she kind of tells him, and she also struggles with notifications as well. So it kind of becomes a form of control for her. And she tests Coll's loyalty after he kind of betrayed her by making him do kind of the dirty work in the scene. But so do you think there's more to it other than Emily not liking to do death notifications, or is there something more in Emily's past? And you already mentioned that her husband, she's a widower.
Yeah, there's something in the past because the incident that got her in trouble in DC
Yes.
was suspicious as it was.
Yeah.
And so I think one of her partners passed away, maybe.
Too. Yeah, we don't have a lot of information yet. They haven't revealed that quite yet,
But
but there's something bigger going on within the FBI that's made her even more emotional and on edge with the story. So they go ahead and they go to Gerald's office and inform him that they have found his wife murdered. And so his initial reaction is pretty genuine. He's like horrified and he's getting upset and he's angry and just really appears to be devastated.
yeah, they're at the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first meeting was at his office. He hadn't gone to the house yet, I don't believe.
Because he has 2 kids at the house.
Yes, yes, which he meets later on, and because he doesn't know how he's going to tell his children. Emily's getting kind of a little bit of strange vibe, but she generally thinks he's being pretty genuine, and doesn't think he's a suspect because she's really thinking that he's genuine in his emotions and his feelings. And this is where he finds out because Gerald starts insisting, it's him. Why haven't you arrested him? And so she's like, well, who's him? And that's when he brings up Patrick Wood. And so Patrick Wood is the mystery man that his wife had supposedly ran off to Italy with. Is this Patrick Wood, of who she was having an affair again. So now they have a name for Patrick, and that just kind of shifts their investigation again after the interview. And like I said, she doesn't really feel at this time that Gerald's involved with it, because she thinks that his grief is pretty genuine at this time. So with this new information of this Patrick Wood, Emily goes ahead and contacts her friend Zara at the FBI again to see if they can locate this Patrick Wood. But there's like no information on this guy. He popped up 3 years ago out of nowhere, but they can't find any history on him. They know nothing. And so it's like, is he even a real person? Because there's no paper trail, no credit cards. There's just nothing with that. And as they're working on that, Coll and Emily, she's letting her guard back down around him again and starting to open up a little bit more about her past. And then in the book, that's when we finally learn that Emily's husband had died suddenly from a heart attack and left her devastated. And she went right back to work too early. And in her grief, she blew a major case. And so she's just on this big emotional roller coaster and still grieving the loss of her husband. And so she feels like herself having a connection to this detective Coll, that she's kind of betraying her husband's memory. And so that's why she really likes to keep people at a distance and doesn't even really have any close friends except the Zara, her friend at the FBI. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I kind of like how the author's mixing in the personal with them also doing this case. Makes the characters feel a little more real to me. What did you think about not Burke, but Gerald Wright when he gives them the name of this man? Did you think Patrick Wood, oh, automatically he's the number one suspect?
Well, they he told it that's who she went off with
Hmm.
because he thought she was having an affair.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
but
Gerald,
that wasn't even the name of the boss either.
yeah, Gerald was so emotional, and he was crying, and then he was angry, and how could she do this to him, and she was having an affair and all of this stuff, and they have children, and just like he's this loving that they had this perfect marriage, and he didn't understand, and maybe he worked too much, and he didn't know why um she would run off to Italy with this guy, which obviously she didn't. But and then that's where they also find out, and that Victoria works. She was a paralegal. And so that's kind of where they're like, well, we've got to go interview her boss because we know that there was some incidents of harassment that kind of got brushed under the rug a little bit. So they end up going to see Rex Fuller, which is Victoria's boss, and he kind of moves up on their suspect list because of these allegations of harassment. And there's a woman there that kind of gets Emily's attention, and her name is Sarah, and she's also a paralegal and a friend of Victoria's. So Emily's really wants to speak with her to find out more information about this Fuller and his history of inappropriate behavior towards the employees. And what she tells Victoria is that Victoria may have been one of these women that he had targeted. Oh my goodness, there's a fly flying around. So when she finally gets to interview Fuller and has this information from this Sarah, she brings that up, and it ends up taking this huge twist because Fuller admits that uh, he did harass Victoria, and and that he was out of town at the time of her suspected murder, and the reason he was out of town was because he was meeting the Sarah, this paralegal, because she was blackmailing him, and that Sarah had witnessed him harassing Victoria and was demanding money in exchange to be kept silent. So his meeting with Sarah and him leaving town had nothing to do with this disappearance of Victoria. He was doing it because he was being blackmailed, and he didn't want to be brought up on charges and lose his, because he's a lawyer, and lose his business. Um, so she's kind of convinced that he doesn't have really anything, maybe not anything going on with Victoria's disappearance, but because of these allegations and things, she does go ahead and arrest him. And when she does that and gets back to the police station, um, Chief Burke just explodes. He just goes off the rails because she dug into this investigation and this missing persons case and discovered this information. And what did you think about all that?
Well, with him getting so upset, you kept thinking in the back of your mind, why is he so upset on her getting the lawyer in trouble?
Yes, yes. What did you think about finding out that Fuller? I mean, he's been harassing these women. I mean, he's a sleazy lawyer. He's just a sleazy lawyer. And did you think Sarah had a lot of bills. She was paying school back. She was friends with Victoria, and it kind of felt like Victoria knew that that's what she was going to do to kind of get some retribution on her boss, but that she was blackmailing him for money, and she got a raise and all of this stuff. It kind of didn't paint her in
What
such a
made you
sweet
think
life.
he was in on Victoria's disappearance because of
Hmm.
the other woman getting all the money?
Yes, yes. But why didn't he kill her too? Instead of Victoria, the one that he was actually paying the money to. But
Well, I mean, that's before. I mean, we knew that he didn't kill her because he was somewhere else.
mhm. Yes, he was out of town meeting
Right,
Sarah to
right.
renegotiate. She wanted to renegotiate her money. She wanted more money. So question, do you think Burke's anger comes from guilt and possible involvement in the case, or could there be other reasons he was determined to keep Victoria Wright's missing person investigation? Why do you think at this point in the story, why do you think he was covering it up?
Well, like either he was awful lazy sheriff and just wanted to hurry up and just sweep it under the rug, or he was in on it.
In on it, in on the murder. Yes. There's definitely there has to be something
And
going
even
on.
at the end of the story here, there's something going on
Mhm.
still. You know,
Yeah. Yes. So these chapters in the book do an excellent job of expanding the suspect list while also creating more uncertainty. Every new piece of information seems to raise additional questions. Patrick Wood remains a mystery. Chief Burke's actions continue to become and more suspicious. And then Rex Fuller has questionable behavior and motives, and now Sarah's credibility has been called into question as well at this point. So it feels like almost everybody is connected to Victoria, has something to this dead woman, that they're hiding something, out of all the people so far that they've interviewed. Um, so with all of that, this where we're at in the story, who do you find most suspicious? Chief Burke, Patrick Wood, Rex Fuller, or somebody else entirely? And do you think the person is hiding the most secrets is necessarily the killer? Like we know Burke's hiding a lot of secrets. So at this point in the book, who do you think may be the number one suspect when you were reading, or did you just didn't know?
well, didn't really know until the first woman got revealed.
Uh,
Right?
yeah, this is about the first woman, Victoria, and her building her list of suspects.
No,
And
there was a one before Victoria.
yeah, but we hadn't heard about her yet,
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, but yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. So that's when you kind of were getting a little bit more of
Well, we
what's going
kept
on.
thinking that Paul guy did something, but then they kept saying, "Well, who's Paul? Paul's not even exist anywhere."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then that's why they keep going back to Gerald Wright, asking him questions because there's
Hmm.
not a Paul on record anywhere.
Yes. So after this major explosion with Chief Burke, with the rest of Rex Fuller, Victoria's boss, Burke takes him off the case. Doesn't suspend him, but he takes him off the case and tells him, "You're no longer working on this." But Coll kind of refuses to walk away, and he ends up showing up at her hotel room that night and tells her, I'm going to work this on my time off. He can't keep me from not helping you, and I want to help you dig deeper into what's going on. And that's where Zara, the analyst, the FBI friend, reveals something huge, that she discovers they're able to get the flight information um, from the airport. She gets all the video, and that they discovered that Victoria she never boarded this plane, because they were trying to figure out, well, she went to Italy, when did she come back? Because there's no record of her coming back. Well, there isn't a record of her coming back, or no record of her being in Italy. It's because she never left. She never got on the plane in the first place. And that was one of the things that Chief Burke had covered up. He never investigated anything, or even that she even left the airport. Um, so definitely destroys the whole runaway theory. She didn't run off with a boyfriend and then at some point returned and gotten killed. She never left in the first place. So both Emily and Coll are starting to get really, really suspect of Chief Burke, and especially with covering up all of this key information with his initial missing persons case, because he would have discovered she never left on the airplane if he would have investigated the missing persons, but he didn't. He just closed the case as a runaway wife.
Well, that's because the husband kept saying it, that
Yes.
she
Yeah.
was,
She cleaned out all of her money and fled the country with this
he
boyfriend.
felt like there was not enough evidence there to search more, because the husband had already told him
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she had a boyfriend
Yeah.
and they went to Italy.
Yes. That was pretty cut and dry.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cut.
So that's why the sheriff didn't do any more investigation.
Yes. Yes. And so along with that, Zara also found out, started investigating Patrick Wood. That's who Gerald, the husband, said is the mystery man that she ran off to Italy with. But and what she discovered was that the only really paper trail that he had was that he purchased a home in Stillwater, and but there's no verifiable information about him other than he had bought in this home in Stillwater, but nothing else. There's absolutely nothing. So the only thing that really is going to help them along is, like, they're going to have to go interview the realtor, and then they also decide to track down. I think they found out she had stayed in a motel before she left, so they're going to go to the motel and try to interview there and kind of find out what happened on her last night as well. So there's just a lot of going on, a lot of leads that just seem to be kind of dead ending all the time. So they really decide that. Let's see. So do you remember them going to the motel? And it's this dump dive.
Well, they were trying to find people that were at a motel at a certain time, and they needed to find a druggy woman that possibly was at the motel at the same time.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of research there.
Yeah. They discovered that there was this homeless woman, and her name is Jody. I think her real name is Joanne, but she goes by Jody. That was in the room next to them. And so they're really hopeful that this Jody may know what he looks like. But in the meantime, they're going to follow up with the realtor who actually sold Patrick this house. But what they find out about it is that he paid for it in cash, and he did everything electronic. But one of the things that was very kind of significant in it was Victoria notarized the paperwork. She was the notary on this. He purchased this phone over this home over the phone and paid cash for it, but that she notarized all the closing paperwork, which was a little bit crazy. But so that was pretty interesting to find that little bits of that puzzle of this puzzle. It's like who buys a home over the phone, sight unseen, and pays cash,
Right.
right? That's a little suspicious if you don't ask me. But as they're following up on this homeless woman, um, they decide to start checking out all of the homeless shelters. And each one they go to, they're not really getting anything, but they end up going to one of these homeless shelters that a real good friend of um, Coll's is, and his name is Caleb, Reverend Caleb, and he has seen her and does say that she comes in about once a week or so and gets cleaned up and gets something to eat, and he lets them know that he will contact them if she shows back up over there, because otherwise they really have no way of finding her. Um, but yeah, there's definitely a connection between Victoria and this Patrick Wood, with her being the notary on his paperwork. So at this point, do you think Patrick Wood is a real person that is just hiding in plain sight with all of his mystery, or a fabricated identity created by a killer? Because that's one of their theories that they're kicking around, who lured Victoria and possibly other victims.
Right. They're trying to make show you that he's there, but he's not.
Yes, yes. I was at this point in the story, I really kind of feel that uh, the mystery man, this Patrick Wood, he's kind of like number one on my list, even though there's a lot going on with the chief of police and her husband and the her boss. I mean, they all got little things going on, but it's just too suspicious that somebody has absolutely no identity, no paper trail, no nothing, and purchase a house with cash, and nobody's ever seen his face. Nobody knows what he looks like. The realtor never even met him. It was all over the phone. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then also one of the things also I really enjoyed in these chapters of the book is that the author continues to develop the relationship between Emily and Coll while advancing the investigation. And Emily is slowly, she's really kind of starting to let her guard down, and she's um, I wouldn't say have feelings for him, but something is kind of developing there, and a connection to him, and she's beginning to trust him. And at the same time, but she's also fighting this internal battle of losing her husband. Um, but with all this pain and past mistakes, she's just too afraid and too vulnerable to really let anyone in, and especially another man, even though in her mind, talking through with their conversations and stuff, she really wants to do that. But she's still very leery. So, but once again, Emily and Coll, they find themselves in another dead end with no solid leads. So at this point, they're like, we really got to go back and talk to this Gerald Wright, Victoria's husband, because she just is, Emily's more convinced now that he's just hiding something, or he's just not telling the whole truth, but something is just off, and it's enough off that she wants to go back and talk to him. And this is when we find out a little bit more about Emily. So when they arrive at Gerald's home, Emily she just about loses it. She's almost just having a panic attack when she sees Gerald's children. And Coll recognizes it, and he's like, what the heck is going on? There's got to be something just deeper in her past. And so throughout the interview, even though she's like distancing herself, trying not to have a panic attack and freak out. She's studying his behavior, and she notices some changes in his body language that makes her believe he's still hiding something. But they're just unable to uncover him. There's just nothing, no concrete connection between Gerald and this Patrick Wood, other than Gerald telling him that that's the mystery man and he's the boyfriend. So they do finally conclude that 100% positive that Zara never reveals that she never willingly left her family and disappeared. And so they become increasingly convinced that Chief Burke has played a role in covering up the truth, either the disappearance.
I don't know why I kept thinking he was in on it.
Burke, yeah. Yeah, he knows, he's got to know something. And they're kind of convinced it at that point too. And so they go back to confront him at the station. And again, he just becomes enraged, and it escalates to the point that he suspends Coll from duty without pay. Not a full firing, but he's on suspension without pay until further notice, because this Burke is just so angry with him for allowing Emily to dig into all of this secret stuff that he had buried, as well. And because they confront him over the airport footage of showing and also revealing that her seats were taken by standby passengers. So they 100% know for sure that she never got on this plane. And he just blew that off. And so about at this time, by this time, Emily, she tells Coll, because she's so mad and everything with the chief and what's going on, but she does have her behavioral profile. And so based on everything that they know and what little bit they've been able to collect, she believes that he's intelligent, patient, manipulative, and highly educated. And then more importantly, she believes that he's a narcissist who enjoys controlling and tormenting his victims. And that comes from the book. So this is not somebody who kills impulsively. This is someone who carefully plans every detail and gains satisfaction from deceiving everyone around them. So who does that sound like out of their suspects?
The husband.
The husband? Yeah. Chief Burke, I mean, Chief Burke is a bully, but he's not that smart. And I don't think Rex Fuller, her boss, is smart either.
Well, they had already proven that he didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just a, like I said, he's just nasty. He just likes harassing women at work. He's a player.
Right.
But not a killer. So with their profile, they still feel like there's something missing. And that's when they refer back to, I think I missed that. This earlier murder, that was one of the things that Zara had found out, that, no, I mentioned that there was this other murder. So they're like, maybe this killer made mistakes in that case. So they think their best options of finding out some information is to go to this small town where she was found and look over this cold case that they had discovered had happened before Victoria did. So they end up going to this little town called Soft Bend, and they meet Sheriff Willie Parks, and he's 180 out from Chief Burke. He's nice, he's cooperative, he wants to help, he remembers all the details, and he gets the case files out and to get them going in the right direction. And like I said, completely opposite of what they are getting from Chief Burke back in Stillwater. So with all that information, they find out that this woman whose name is Laura Allen had a boyfriend at the time of the murder, and his name's Brian Becker. And so they finally feel like that some pieces are falling into place, and they have a direction to go in. And their first place is they want to go talk to this Brian. And he had an alibi. He was away at college. He wasn't around when Laura Allen got murdered, but he has since, with his family, moved back to this town. So they're going to go over and interview him, and which he gives them some huge information that just pretty much busts this case wide open. Do you want to tell them about the information that he discovered, that he reveals to them, Regina?
Oh, I don't know if I remember each little part of that. Oh, go ahead.
Well, he goes to interview him, and Brian is still kind of tearful and is telling them about her and that they had dated. And
don't they talk about the Paul guy being in college with them?
Maybe. I don't remember. I don't remember that. But he tells Emily and Coll that this Laura had a boyfriend before he dated her, and that this boyfriend
was it Coll though, or
no, that this boyfriend had broke up with her, and he'd been so sweet and so nice, and then so mean to her, and then he broke up with her. And then after a year, he came back, and she got back together with him, and he ended up just destroying her. He only got back together with her, and was just so nice and so sweet for like a year. And then he just destroyed her and basically laughed in her face and basically said, "I only did this to prove to you I could do it. I don't care about you or nothing." And I mean, she just destroyed him. And he tells her he went to high school. It's high school he went to when they were in high school, and ends up telling them, I have a high school photo of this guy, and goes to get his yearbook to show them a picture of this boyfriend whose name is Joe Lewis. And this Joe Lewis was her boyfriend that she had in high school. That's where they all met. That's where you were thinking that came from. But so they come out, and he shows the picture to Emily and Coll. And all of the sudden, everything just explodes, because I don't know how to describe it. It's like, who did they see in the picture? Because they recognized the picture of this Joe Lewis.
Well, they saw Gerald Wright in the picture.
Gerald Wright, the man in the picture, Joe Lewis, is Gerald Wright.
Had showed features of him.
Yes. And so everything just kind of fell into place, and Emily started making the connections, because right after this, Laura died, Joe Lewis left. And so Joe Lewis left and created the identity of Gerald Wright. So now they're pretty convinced that Gerald Wright is also Patrick Wood, that he created another identity to kill his wife, but they don't know why. They don't know why he did that. But all they know is that they have got to feed it back to town and get over and speak with Gerald before he disappears, because obviously he's good at creating identities and falling off the grid. That was a shocker. I was expecting it when he went in to get the picture, who did you think it was going to be? Did you always think it was going to be Gerald Burke, or did you think it was going to be somebody else? I thought it was going to be
Oh,
the police chief.
no, there, I kept suspecting there at the last that it was him.
Yeah, I was getting kind of vibes on it, but when he went to go get the yearbook, and when the wife came over and tells you know, you got to leave him alone, and this is devastating, and you don't need to be bringing this stuff up. I thought for sure that the photograph was going to be of Sheriff Burke. So
No,
I was I wasn't surprised, but I thought it was going to be Burke
I
more than I
never
thought it was
thought
going
it
to be
was the
Gerald.
sheriff that did it, but it kept showing that it was
Hmm.
the right man.
Okay. Um, yeah, like I said initially, I kind of thought that it was Burke that was like the mastermind for everything. Um, so I just thought, oh man, that's a good a twist. Secret identities, creating secret identities. So so again, Patrick Wood's not real. Joe Lewis is not a separate suspect. He is Gerald Wright. Um, uh, Gerald Wright's true identity. So he created, and when what they've kind of discovered, and what they're theorizing before they get there to talk to him, is that uh, to kind of sum up their investigation, he created a fake identity. He groomed Victoria online. He purchased a house under false pretenses and lured her into a trap at a motel room. So everything was planned out, every step, every detail. He's a major manipulator, just who thrives on control and betrayal, because he did that to the girlfriend. He stayed with her for a year, so he could gain all of her trust and being the perfect boyfriend, and then just stuck it to her. And he got the same thrill from his wife, except he'd been with his wife for years before he did that, grooming this whole scenario till he stalked her online and everything. I thought that was kind of crazy. Makes you a little leery
Right.
of online people, huh? Considering that's kind of what we do. Um, so they're moving fast to get back to Stillwater before this Gerald disappears. And when they get back there, they find out that Gerald has taken off, and has taken off with their children. So now the race is really on. And when they search the property, they do discover a little crawl space in the garage containing a box filled of his little trophies and mementos. And among those in the items is a motel key, this room number 3, which was the last room that was Victoria was seen in while she was alive. So they've made the connection, and they're pretty convinced now that Gerald absolutely is the one that had murdered her. And they had also, which I thought was just creepy. Oh, it was so creepy. In the box with the hotel key, they found the ball of twine and the needle that he sewed these women's eyes shut with.
Right.
Yes, horrific, horrific. And but anyway, so they break down, and he's such a, excuse my French, ass. Chief Burke, they call him and tell him, we need backup. You've got to send help here. This is what's going on. Gerald Wright killed his wife, killed this other woman. They can prove it. They got the evidence. And he basically just hangs up on him. And so Coll just ends up calling up another friend on the force, and get backup to them.
Yeah, and
And
they go to the motel.
yes, they head to the motel. And then on the way to the hotel, Emily, the final little bit that she discloses of what's going on with her, she tells Coll the reason why she panics. Well, actually, he says, you need to tell me what's going on, because I'm your partner. And if you're going to be freezing up around children, I need to know why. And so she finally ends up telling him that she was on this case and she almost shot a child and killed a child. And that's why she got in so much trouble and was under investigation with the FBI, because this case went bad and she almost shot a child, and that's why she got sent to Stillwater kind of as punishment, and that she needed to reprove herself before they brought her back to the main agency. And so Coll's like, oh my gosh, we got a murderer that's got his children hostage. Are you going to freeze up? Are you going to be able to do this? You know, so just crazy. So do you want to go ahead and tell the outcome of them getting to the hotel?
No, go ahead.
Oh, come on. You know this story.
Oh, well, they finally find out what room he's in, and I don't know how she gets in the room, but the little girl is on the bed with a plastic bag on her head.
Yes.
And Gerald Wright, the dad, has the boy in his arms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he has a bag on his head yet.
He doesn't, but he has it in his hands.
But he has a knife at his throat.
Yes.
So then she starts talking to Gerald to stand down.
Mm-hmm. I think, which you just stated, like she breaks into this room and she sees this little girl with a bag on her head that's not breathing, and this little boy who's about ready to be murdered. And that's when, the look in her eye, she just takes action.
Ray from Jones Puzzle.
Oh, nice. Hi, everybody. Welcome in. We're just about done. Glad to see everybody. Hi, Star. But yeah, she breaks in and she shoots him. She shoots him in the shoulder.
Well, she pops it through and tries to get him to stand down.
Yes.
Because of the boy, and gets him to confess. And then
I think this scene in the book, it just perfectly illustrates Gerald's twisted psychology.
Why are you killing the kids? When I kept reading it, I thought, well, why is he killing the kids?
Yes. And he says it. And I made a quote of that from the book there, from here, because it was just pretty impactful of how sick and twisted this guy is. He gains satisfaction from fear, betrayal, and power. And so his chilling confession reveals exactly how his mind works. First, it's the luring them into a sense of safety, then betrayal, then death. And I make sure they can never open their eyes again. I seal the experience in, robbing them of any peace in their death. And so he wanted his children looking in his face and knowing that they would never know no peace, that the man that they thought loved him didn't. It was like the ultimate betrayal. It was just insane. So for Gerald, it wasn't all just about killing them. It was about complete domination, and ensuring that his victim remained trapped in his betrayal forever. That, if there was an afterlife, that in their afterlife, they were going to be living his betrayal. And so she ends up shooting him, and she grabs that little boy and trying to get him out of as Coll grabs the little girl who isn't breathing, and get her out of the hotel room. And Gerald grabs a knife and stabs her in the leg, right in the thigh, and leaves it, boom, embedded in there. But she just jumps on him and goes after it. And
Well, she shoots him,
yeah, and she ends up shooting him.
but it didn't kill him.
No, no, but she shot him good enough he wasn't getting
Any
back
danger.
up. But
Right.
it was pretty emotional, getting outside, and the EMTs are there and working on the girl, and they revive her, and they end up saving her. They end up saving the little girl, and they're able to get her breathing again, and the little boy is safe. Um, and they tell her that when she's in there with him, she finds out that Gerald tells her just this statement that Emily just doesn't believe. He says,
When he was leaving out on the
yes,
stretcher.
yeah, yeah.
Hi, Joan.
Hi, Joan. Yeah, he mentioned that her husband didn't die of a heart attack. And she's like, "What do you know about my husband? How do you even know his name?" Because he's like, "I know Matthew." And then when they're wheeling him out into the ambulance, he's screaming, "You got to protect me! You got to protect me! If you protect me, I'll
He
tell you
kept,
everything you know."
yeah, he kept saying he had information for her about her husband.
Yes, yes. I think one of the things that I loved about the scene after being stabbed, that she just focused not on herself. That even though she was hurt and had a knife in there, she just really, um, I think she kind of reclaims herself. Actually, is my impression of it, with the trauma and the devastation of losing her husband and almost losing her job. Somebody out there in the street, without losing her job. I think in that moment she finally makes it back to herself.
Yeah, she was, but she still was hurting and reeling from wondering what he knew and how he knew.
Yes, and or is he lying?
They're
Is he
not even in the same
Yes.
area.
No connection. She's like, how did he even know his name?
Because she was from DC and they were from
Mhm.
Virginia.
Yeah, I thought. And then when Sheriff Burke shows up, Chief Burke shows up, and Emily's like, "It's on now. I'm ready. I'm ready for this fight." And she just goes after
But he
him.
just started getting people back and everything because he already knew he was in trouble.
Well, yeah, and he just wanted to go in front of the reporters and tell them that they caught a serial killer
Yeah.
that
And
he covered up.
do you have in your notes about the end of the book?
I do. So, um,
Because that's really interesting.
yeah. So as Emily is trying to get this information from Gerald, she ends up blacking out because this knife injury actually had did major damage to her leg and nicked the artery, and so she had woke up in the hospital, and her boss is there from the FBI and praising her for what a wonderful job. That woman cracked me up. Her boss is sitting in the hospital room vaping. She's
Yeah.
like, "They took my gun, they ain't taking my vape." I thought that was hilarious. But she finds that all out, and then she pretty much tells her, this Chief Burke um is they're gonna go after him. So I thought that's not the end of the story. So them actually catching Burke is not the end of the story. So she wakes up in the hospital, and the first thing she does after her investigation is, which she took great pride in, is she walks into the sheriff's department and with several other FBI agents and arrest him. And because they find out that Burke was paying him off, the sheriff off, to cover up the missing person case. So
That
he may not have known he
what
murdered her,
what
but
was I thought it was the deal with the right guy. I mean that lawyer.
with Rex. I believe it was with uh with Gerald for not investigating. He was getting money from them or from both.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, yes. And so got to look at my notes here. Um, and then her next order of business that she has to do
But I thought
is
it was so good that she got to arrest that sheriff
she
because he
did
was
too,
so ugly to her.
and he was mad. He was still trying to be ugly with her, and she's like, "You're under arrest," and he's like, "You can't do this. You can't do this to me. I'm the sheriff." And they slapped the cuffs on him and walked him out of there for evidence tampering, investigate, falsifying investigation, taking money, all kinds of stuff. It was good. It that was like the icing on the cake for her, but it really doesn't end there because she returns to the hospital because Gerald is Bennett was in surgery and was recovering from his gunshot wounds. And so she really wants to go back to this hospital to interview him and finally learn and see if he'll disclose what he knows about her husband, Matthew, because it's really bothering her because there's no way he should even know his name, let alone anybody else. So, um, but as she gets there and she's going up the elevator and she kind of passes a woman in the hallway, looks like a nurse, and she goes in the room and she discovers that Gerald Wright's in cardiac arrest, and there's a code blue, and he dies without her getting answers. And that's when she all of a sudden realizes the nurse that passed her in the elevator was wearing a trench coat. And so it is like, what the heck is going on? And how does he know? And did my husband really die of a heart attack? So book two is going to be crazy. Um, uh, I think we've kind of decided. Are we going to read book two for next month?
I think so. We need to follow and find out what's going on with Emily.
We got to find out how in the
Then
heck Gerald.
book two is The Collection Girls
Oh,
by
oh
Alex
wow.
Sigmore.
But kind of in the book, I thought the author did a really excellent job of wrapping up Victoria Wright's murder investigation while still leaving the readers desperate for a next book. That definitely, I'm desperate for the next book. The main mystery is solved. Gerald is exposed as a killer. Burke is arrested, and Emily's career is restored back to its previous standing at the FBI. Yet the final twist completely changes everything, changes the direction of the story, and just raises all kinds of new questions about Matthew's death and the connection that Gerald has to Emily's past. And so for me, at the ending of this book, it was like a perfect cliffhanger. And there's just absolutely no way that I could finish this book and not immediately want to read the next book, to book two, which we're definitely going to do. And I think we're going to do that for July's book chat. So I hope everybody will come back, and I hope you enjoyed learning about Victoria's murder and all the twists and turns and the emotional struggles and building of a relationship. We also get to
Did
see
you ever figure out why he sewed the eyes shut?
so that they couldn't that so they would be trapped in the last memory of what they saw.
Oh, okay.
So he made them look at them and in terror, and then he sewed their eyes shut. So in death, they would see nothing but terror. In his mind, that's what he thought. Psycho, crazy, crazy, crazy dude.
It's good
Dude,
that you can reveal that.
yes, yes, that was just totally crazy. So excellent book, definitely worth reading. You guys should read it if you haven't. We just gave you the summary of it, and I mean, you know the outcome of it, but still a lot to the book, a lot to learn, a lot to read, a lot of interesting little twists and turns and things that they find out along the way. But we definitely are going to read book 2. And I hope you can join along reading book 2 with us. And if you read book 2, we'd love to have you come up with us when we do our live for next month. So if that's something that you're interested in, drop me an email if you'd like to be a guest on the panel for book 2. And let me look up book 2 right now so I can tell you what it's going to be. Give me just a second. What did you say the name of the book was, Regina?
The Collection Girls.
The Collection Girls. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so the Collection Girls. Oop, there we go. So July's book read is going to be The Collection Girls, and it's book 2 in the Emily Slate mystery thriller by Alex Sigmore. So I hope you can all join us and read along. And like I said, if you get the book and read the book, we'd love to have you come up and join us in a discussion, give us your thoughts and opinions of the book. We'd love to have you. So hope everybody's having a fantastic Saturday evening, and have a blessed Sunday. And we will definitely see you next month. And we will be back on Tuesday for sure for our whip, our weekly. We whip twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. So we will be back on Tuesday with more for our garden event in the afternoon. So we hope you all can enjoy us. We're so glad to see you. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.